Hi class. I'm going to do a demo for assignment 4.3, arrays. And here I have 8 rectangular arrays. And on the next page of my workbook, I have 8 polar arrays. And the task is to draw at least 6 patterns. And that is at least 3 polar arrays and 3 rectangular arrays. Put that on one PDF sheet with one title block and submit your 6 patterns. You can, of course, draw more, but submit a minimum of 6. And so I'm going to demonstrate how to draw all of these patterns and all of these patterns, and you can choose which patterns it is that you want to draw. So I'm going to put this on the other screen. And I've already opened my template file that has my title block in it. So I have my title block in here. And I'm just going to go to Options and turn off Allow Press and Drag for lasso. I am on the remote desktop. I'm signed into my Autodesk account. And now I can begin working. So the first pattern of the rectangular arrays in the workbook is, it looks like a pinwheel. So I'm just going to go ahead and get to drawing. And actually for this pinwheel, you can use both the polar and the rectangular arrays. And so I'm going to go ahead and start with that. So one side of that is 3/8. And the other side is 3/8. And I'll go ahead and connect that there, and I'll join that together. And then I'm going to take this and I'll go ahead and start with the polar array. This will be my base point. And there's only 4 items, so I'll choose 4. Then I'm going to close this. All right. And if I needed to change anything, I can re-click on that and do that here. But that looks good so far. I'm also already on my geometry layer, which is nice. But let me go to the construction layer. I'm just going to put a little construction line here of 1/8 of a unit, so that way I can ensure that my next array is spaced out how I need it to be. Okay, so now I'm going to take this, I'll go to Home, and I'm going to choose now the rectangular array. And I want to have 4 columns and 4 rows, so I'll change these both to 4. And now I need to decrease that space. So this space that they have here, this is between the 2 base points. So here, here, so on and so forth. So if I put 1/8, which is the distance between the pinwheels as displayed in the workbook, it's going to shrink that too much. So I'm going to do a little bit of math. And what I want to do is I want to add, let me show it on here. This distance here, 3/8, and then there's another 3/8, and then the 1/8 here. So really quick, 1/8 is 0.125. I'm going to clear that, so I'll do 3/8. That's 0.375, and there's 2 of them, so I'll multiply it by 2. Then I'll add the 0.125. So I want that distance to be 0.875. And this one as well. All right, and so that's connecting well. And I can move this line to make sure it's connecting well on the other side, but that should be good. And there's several different ways of doing this. Obviously, if you copied and pasted all of them, that would be similar as well, but this is just a lot faster and more efficient. So if I move that there, I can see, okay, it matches up perfectly. So 1/8 of a gap between those pinwheels. All right, so I'll go ahead and start on the next pattern, which is some diamond shapes within a square. So I'll go ahead and start with the outside diamond shapes. And I'll make sure my polar tracking 4590, 135, 180 is on to make it a little easier. And so don't get confused, actually, this isn't 0.5 inches. It is, this distance here is 0.5. So I'll do 0.5, 0.5. I'm still on my construction layer. Let me go to geometry, and now I can connect that. I'm going to hover over this so it creates the green tracking line, and I'm going to make sure I see the other one for that 45-degree angle, and that looks good. There we go. So I'll go ahead and use the rectangular array here. It's going to be 3 and 3. And another way to do this is that you can actually kind of drag this over so you can see that they will touch, but it's not like 100% accurate, right? So we like to be very precise. So even though it looks like it's touching, I want to make sure those actually snap to each other. So instead of doing it that way, I'm just going to go ahead and do the space between these center points, which is going to just be 1. And that's because I added 1/2 and then 1/2. So 1, that's perfect, and 1. All right, I'll go ahead and close this, and I can delete this. I'll just line it up nicely with this one next to it. And there are some squares in between. And there's only 4 of them, so I would just continue to do the squares and not do the arrays for this one. All right, I'll do P for previous. Oops, PR. Just kidding. I'll just do it from here. All right, that looks good. For previous, I forgot I have to select whatever it is to do some kind of command. Let's say I want to move this, and then let's say I want to do it again and say move. Now I could do P for previous, and it just selects that same thing. So I can move that back if I wanted. Okay, so now let's do the one with the circles. All right, and so the radius of the larger circle, I am on radius right now, is 1/2. So I'll do 0.5. And inside of that, I have another circle. And that one is 1/4. And I can go ahead and create those smaller circles on the outside, and the distance between these is 1. So let me, how do I want, so there's a couple different ways I could do this. I could create the small circle first, and I can make sure that's 1/2 away from here. And 1/8 is the size of the radius of that circle, and then it's also 1/2 0.5 this way. Okay, and so let's go ahead and do an array for this, just since we're doing it anyways. That'll be the center. I only need 4 items. And I'm going to make this non-associative. So if I deselect that, then that means that once I close this array, it's just going to act as individual objects. So let's close that. So if I select these, they are not going to, I can't just change the array easily if I wanted to. All right, so let's take all of these, and then now let's do the rectangular array. So I need it to be 3 and 3, and then actually the space between them is shown on my document, so I can change it to 1. All right, and that looks good. Just move it here for now. And so there's going to be a lot of repeated objects. So if I select this, I have more than one circle here. So I'm going to select this whole thing and then do overkill. So that way I can get rid of those extra circles. And that's why I made them non-associative as well for the array. All right, and so now let's do a 2-point circle. And we want to turn on the correct object snaps. That's going to be quadrant. And, oops. Let me try that again. From here to here. All right. And I'll do one more array for this one. It's going to be 2 columns and 3 rows. You're going the wrong direction though. So I'm going to say that the space between here, that's 1. But the space between here, I'm going to say -1. So that way it goes the other direction. All right, and that looks pretty good. Okay. All right, and so now let's go ahead and do the one that has the wavy pattern. I'll go ahead and create the box first. It's going to be 3 by 3. I'll say 3, 3. And there's some half circles in here with a radius of 1/2. So I'll go ahead and come here. I'm going to start here at the midpoint and do a radius of 1/2. All right, and let's go ahead and trim this. So now I just have this one, and let's create the array. Oops. I did the wrong one. I meant to do the rectangular array. All right, the distance between here is 1/2. And I'm gonna have that go to here. And I only need, sorry, I only need one row. All right, and I'll go ahead and close this. And then because, oops, I accidentally did non-associated again, but that's okay. And so here, I'm just going to take this and want to just rotate it easily. Let's see, I can mirror this. I don't want to erase the source object, and then I'm going to mirror it one more time. And then this time I do want to erase the source object. There we go. And then I'll mirror this across. No. Okay, that looks pretty good. I just joined it together and I'm just going to adjust it slightly. All right. All right, so now I'm going to create the one with the lines. This one should be fairly simple. The lines are 3/4 in length and they are 1/8 apart. Let me turn back on either ortho mode or polar tracking. I'll just put on polar tracking. So that's 3/4 in length. And I will do the rectangular array. I don't need any rows, just columns. So I'm going to say one row. And between them is going to be 1/8. And how many do I have? Well, it lasts for a total of 3/4 of an inch. So I can say the total distance to is 3/4 or 0.75. Now that changed distance between them. So instead, let's go ahead and see how many we have. Looks like 7. Okay, that looks good. And then the total is 3/4 of an inch or 0.75, so that looks good. All right, I'll close this. I'm going to take this and I'm going to now do the polar array. This is the base point. I need 4 items. Actually, I'm going to change it back to associative. I generally do like to use associative. I just didn't do it for this one over here. I didn't do it for these either, but I could have done it for either of them. So I'll go ahead and close this. So now I have this pattern, and I'm going to do one more array and go back home. And actually, this would be easier to do the polar array one more time because I can just do it about here. And that looks good. All right. So now I have this zigzag pattern, and it doesn't say how big my overall box is. So let's go ahead and just create the zigzags first, and then we'll go from there. So the height is half an inch and height is a half an inch and the width is also half an inch. So I'll do 0.5, 0.5, and I'm going to change this to the construction layer. Go back to geometry. All right. So I have this first zigzag. Let me make sure this is, okay, that's correct. And I'll start with the rectangular array. Between them, I'm going to have, it's going to be 1 inch actually, because it's two sides of this. So 0.5, 0.5, so it's 1 inch. And I have 1, 2, 3 items. I'm going to change that to 3. So there's 3, I guess, peaks is what I can call them. And then the rows are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of the rows, and then the distance between them is a 1/4 inch. All right. And I can delete this. I'll mirror this whole thing. No, I don't want to erase the source object, and I want to put a box around this. I hovered over both those points, and I'll hover over both of these to create the tracking lines. There we go, that looks good. And now I have this other zigzag pattern. And if I recall correctly, this one is one of the more difficult ones. Oops, I didn't do both sides. So 3 and 3. Okay. So for this one, we're going to create some boxes and then we're going to do some trimming to complete this one. So it looks like it's a 1/4 inch. So let me start with, I'll start with a line here. I'm going to go over a 1/4 inch. Then I'm just going to go down this way. And let's see. Okay, and then I'll go ahead and do the same thing the other way. I'm extending down a 1/4 inch and going across. Okay, so we're going to do some columns, but only one row. And the distance between these is a 1/4 inch. And I just want to extend this all the way to the other side. I'm going to make it non-associative since we're just going to trim it anyways. And I'll do the same thing here. So this time we're going to do one column and the distance between the rows is going to be, I'm going to say -1/4 because I'm going down instead of up. Okay, great. All right, so now I just have this grid with all these boxes, and I'm going to do some trimming here to complete this pattern. So it looks like so, and then it's like a zigzag through here. And then this is 2. Back to 1. I think that's right. And then this will be 2 here. Oh no, it should have been 3. Okay, so actually, I'm sorry. Let me go back. I just did undo, and it did I undid all of it because I just did the one command for it. All right, my apologies. This one is a more confusing pattern. If you want to challenge yourself, this is more challenging in a way, in a sense that just kind of figuring out the pattern is harder. Okay, and then this is, let's see, 3, 1, and then 3, 1. Okay. This will be 3, 1, 3, 1. Okay. Now I'm going to connect these ones. Just holding it down so I can just kind of snake through here. All right, I'll do that again. So I'm just gonna click and then I'm gonna continue to hold down the left click on the mouse. And there's likely other better, easier ways to do this one. This one was a little bit challenging for me to even see, so I think this way works fine. But if you find a better, easier way, please feel free to use that method. And you do get to choose your own 3 patterns, so obviously if you don't want to do this one, you don't have to. Let's see, this will be 3, 1, 3, 1, 1. Oops. Darn. I just escaped it. I didn't want to undo it completely because that would undo everything. So now I'm going to go back to the trim. Okay, so that one's completed, and there is another one here, a little bit similar in how the pattern looks. So 3.25 for 3¼ inch by 3.25. But it's a little bit different. So I'll go ahead and do the same basic thing where I'm going to go over 1¼ inch, create that line, and then create the arrays with this one. I'll take this line, do the same thing. All right, and then I'm just going to trim away for this pattern. It goes 1, 2, 3, and then this is 3. 1, 2, 3. Right here. And then in the middle of that, it goes across. Okay, and then from here, 1, 2, 3. All right, and then at the top of those, it goes across again. Okay, that was a little bit tedious. But all right, I have all 8 of my rectangular patterns drawn. I just have to dimension them. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the polar array patterns. Okay, so I went ahead and saved my drawing, and I'm going to get started on the polar arrays. Okay, so the first one I have is this square with some patterns in it. So dimensions are 3.25 by 3.25. Okay, and then the radius of, there's a circle or an arc is 2 point, starts from about here. It's 2.298. All right, and then I'm going to trim this. There is an extra line in there that I had to delete as well. And let's go ahead and, because we're working on polar arrays, let's go ahead and use a polar array to complete this. So it's 4 items. Actually, sorry, let's go ahead and let's undo that. I'm just going to mirror this across here. This honestly isn't the best pattern to do the polar arrays, but it's not impossible. So there's that one. And then it's doing the same thing going the other way. Trying to think of how to do this in a polar array fashion. I guess I could just kind of focus on one corner and do it that way. Okay. Move my construction line. And I'll trim this and mirror it. No, I don't want to erase it. And let me connect everything. So this will go across there. And then I'm going to offset this by 3/8 of an inch in this direction. And then I'll trim it. Okay. Okay, so let's take all this. I'll go ahead and join it too really quick. And I'll do the polar array. Here, select 4 items. And that looks good. And I'll go ahead and dimension everything at the end to ensure the accuracy of the drawing. Okay, so now I have the circle with some rings in it. The circle has a diameter, so I'm going to do D for diameter, 3.5. And I'll offset this 1/4 inch, so 0.25 on the inside. And then I have some circles. I'll say, so I'll use a 2-point circle from here to here. And this also has an offset distance of 0.25. Okay, so let me do the polar array. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rings. So it's starting from the center. There's 6 items, so that's already good. And associative is off, which is fine because I'm going to trim this. I'll do trim. All right. And I do have to be careful on how I trim because there's a lot going on here. It continues there. This one here. That looks pretty good. Just kind of look at the pattern and try to pay attention to the small details. That looks pretty good. I'm just going to join everything because I like things to be joined. All right, let's move on to the next pattern. I have, let's see here, one circle in the center with a diameter of 5/8. And see that again, diameter of 5/8. And a diameter, so D for diameter of 1 and 1/8. So I'm going to say 1-1/8. There we go. And then one more large one. And that has a diameter of 3-3/8. All right. And now I have this arc with a radius of 1.125 that goes in here. So which one should I use? I think tangent, tangent, radius because it's tangent to here. It's tangent to here. And then we know the radius, which is 1.125. Did that not work? Let's try that one more time. Says it doesn't exist. So maybe it's not tangent to this one here after all. Instead, let's do let me look at my arcs. I'm gonna do one with, I'm just going to create the circle with the correct radius really quick, 1.125. And then let me see how I can kind of play with this. Okay, there we go. So I just moved it to this endpoint here, and then it actually also meets up with the quadrant there. So I'll trim this on one side, and then I will do my polar array in the middle. And let's see how many we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8. Let me try one more time. 8. There we go. The polar arrays are especially nice and convenient for creating patterns. Okay, so now let's go ahead and create another square, 3.11, 3.11. That's the outer dimensions. And I have this pattern here. Let's start with this. So we'll go ahead and create a circle with a not a diameter, a radius of 0.2. I'll trim this. And then this one, I'll create an array. I'm going to do a path array, although I didn't create a curve yet. I'll put a construction line across. And of course, per usual, there's so many different ways to do this. This is just how I'm going to do it for now. So I'll do a path array this way. Although, here, let me close that actually. I'm going to undo that. That in the center. Then I'm going to go this way instead because I would rather trim it than extend it. Okay. Path array. Going this way. Okay, it doesn't like that one. This one was working though, so let's try it again. See, this is going in that direction. Okay. Here, this is the path. won't let me change the items. The path array can be a little bit tricky and funky. It's not wanting to work for me now. So select group to edit array. So you don't want to go to offset, but that could be an easier method. Oops. Let me try one more time. Oh, there they are. I'm going to explode this and delete it. Actually, yes, it don't explode it, just delete it and okay. Sorry, give me one moment. I'm going to delete that. Come back here. Point 2. I am going to offset this. It's just the easier method, to be honest. So just going to create a few construction lines first. Okay. Offset distance will be 0.2. And I'm going to go this way. Okay. I'll escape that command. I'll take one of these and rotate it about this point. And I'm going to do C for copy because I don't want to delete the original. That. Okay. And then now I'm going to delete those. I'll trim these and delete that. Okay. And I'll take this and I'm going to do now a polar array about the center, and it's going to be 4 items. There we go. That looks good. Sorry, the little bit of troubleshooting there, but it wasn't so bad once I just kind of skipped over that first array and just did the offset command. Of course, this could have been done with any number of things, but the offset command was pretty simple for that one. All right, so now we're going to create this pattern here, and then we'll do this one last. So just 2 more to go. Okay, so 5/16. I'll do a little bit of math here. 5/16 times 3 is 0.9375. So this first line is 0.9375. I could have just as easily went 5/16, 5/16, 5/16 to get that. But this works just as well. And then I'll rotate this. I'll say C for copy. And because I'm practicing my array, I could do this way. So I could do 1 row, 3 columns, and the distance between them is 5/16. I need 1 more, so 4 items actually. Okay. They're non-associative, so they're all separate pieces. And let me create a couple circles here. And I'm going to copy this and I'll bring it over. Okay, so let me trim this. And it also shouldn't be coming into this side of the circle. And I'll take this and do a polar array. 4 items once again. There we go. All right, 1 more to go. And then create a circle. Oops, C for circle. Diameter of this is 3.5. Sorry, let me make sure we're on diameter. 3.5. I'll offset that to 0.25 on the inside. Okay, and then now I'll go ahead and work in this section here. So this is a construction line, and I'm going to create my pattern. So I have one that goes across. I'll offset that to the same distance, 1/4 inch. And there's going to be a point over here. Let's see. Just going to use this as a construction line as well. and come down. I'm just going to overextend it. I'll join these pieces and then I'll offset the same distance. All right, then escape that. And let me trim all the excess. I'll delete these ones. Okay, hopefully this works. Let's see. I have everything highlighted. I'm going to deselect the circles and let's go ahead and do the polar array. I want it to be at the center of the circle and 4 items. All right, yeah, that looks good. Okay, and I will save this. Okay, last thing I want to do is, oh no, sorry, not the last thing. The second last thing I want to do is dimension this thing. So let's go ahead and just going to start dimensioning it. But let me make some modifications to my dimension style. Like that text height, 0.18. I want it to be fractions though. Okay, there we go. And let's go to the dimension layer. I want those to be lined up. And remember, I am selecting endpoints when I do my dimensions. I can make sure they're all lined up nicely later. Here I have the radius. And here I'm going from the center to the center. I'll just there we go. Okay, and I do like when everything's perfectly lined, but I haven't put the 6 patterns I'm choosing on my sheet yet, so I'll make sure that's all perfectly aligned once I choose my patterns. Right, selecting endpoints. I'm just dimensioning like it's shown on the original document in the workbook. All right, just looking to make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, that looks good. Right now I'm going to dimension my polar array patterns. Well, this one actually I want it to be a decimal, so I'm going to have to change that. Let me open up the properties. I'll select this. I'm going to change this to decimal and I'll change the precision to 0.000. Oops. Now where is the precision? Oh, right here. There we go. So the reason 2 is 0.2981 is because when I made the circle, I went from here to that center point. And so when I could have done 2.298 and it would have been ever so slightly different than going to the center point. So just heads up, you'll get the same result really, but from here to that center point, that's about a radius of 2.298. But in actuality, it's just ever so slightly more because of that precision. So if it were more precise, there would be some more numbers out here. Okay, and then I want to do from here to here. But I want this to be aligned, so I'm going to create another dimension style. We'll say new. I'll name it aligned. And the only thing I'm going to change is I'm going to let it be aligned with the dimension line. There we go. So under text. All right, there we go. That's good for that one. I'm going to find the angle here. And I'm actually going to create a construction line so that way I can easily create this dimension. I'll just leave that there too. I don't need to. I don't need to delete it. Okay, and let me go back to my standard. Oh, actually, this one I do want to say unaligned because I have between here and here. And also, I'm going to move this to the middle. This one I'll move to the center as well. But I'm going to rotate this. There we go. That's better. All right. So just press spacebar to continue that last action. And the last one I need is the radius. Okay, and then all of these, I want that to be a decimal. Oh, interesting. Why is this off? See, this should be exact because, okay, there we go. I just selected a little bit off. But this should be exact because when I created it, I put 3.11. And I also need to change the precision to 2 decimal places. I'm just going to copy this since it's exactly the same for the 3 of these. And I'll put them down a little bit more for legibility. All right, just a few more. That one. Make this aligned, this in the middle, and I'm going to copy this over. Make it a little easier on myself. There we go. Let's see, anything else? Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, so now I just need to choose 3 patterns of each one, and I'm going to put it on, make sure it fits into my title block. So I'm just going to select my favorite patterns. Um, I'll do this one. I'm just going to copy them over. Excuse me. All right, copy that over. And this one. And let's see, the circles are kind of like this one. Like this zigzag too. It really doesn't matter, so I'll do this one. And then I'll copy these two and this one. Okay, and because I like to have everything nice and presentable, neat and organized, oops, I'm going to line up everything. I'm gonna move that. And you don't have to do it like this, but please make sure your work is neat and it doesn't look all crazy and disorganized. You want to make sure your work's presentable when you are presenting to me, to your professors, to your boss, to anybody that's checking your work really. So please take pride in what you do and make sure you're doing your best to present your work with quality. Okay. I do like the dimensions to be aligned. All right. All right, let's go ahead and see what that looks like on our paper. I have to unlock it. And it's going to be not to scale, so we don't have to worry about if it's too precise or not. That looks pretty good. I'm just going to lock it, and then here I'm going to lift these up a little higher so I can make sure they're big enough to be nice and visible. Okay, and then I'm going to name this erase, put my name, date is the 18th, and 1 of 1, only one page, and then the scale is not to scale, so I'm going to do NTS. They're just patterns, so as long as we can see and read them, then we're all good. I'm going to save this, and I will plot this as well. So I'm just going to type in the word plot. And I can preview it first. It's usually a good idea to preview it. Oh, see? Good thing I did because something is wrong here. It looks like maybe I have that on the wrong layer or something. Yet that whole thing is on the construction layer. It should be on the geometry layer. I'll just change it over here as well. Okay, nothing else turned off, so I think we're good. Go back here. I'm going to type in preview. And that looks pretty good. And I'm going to save in the appropriate folder. And that immediately popped up. All right, looks pretty good. The line weights for the dimensions look good. They're on the correct layer. And I have my 3 rectangular patterns and my 3 polar array patterns. So as mentioned before, choose any 6 you want. Feel free to just draw those, but if you like additional practice, go ahead and challenge yourself and try to draw even more of the patterns. All right, thank you.